there. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. We have a little something extra special today, another one of those before and afters, if you will. So when we first sat down to talk with Adele in the fall of 2020, somewhere in there, she was just getting into copywriting after facing burnout in the public sector. So that is what you'll hear in the first part of this interview. In the second part of the interview that we recorded just a couple of weeks ago, we sat down to see how life has changed for her. And spoiler alert, things are pretty good. There's also a special guest. And I think for those of you who are starting a new career and maybe not all of your family members are on board, I think you will especially enjoy this part of that interview. So first part, fall 2020, second part, just a couple of weeks ago, and you're about to hear both of them, and I'm pretty confident you will enjoy them both. So without further ado, here's Adele. Hey everybody. So today we are sitting down with a Comprehensive Copywriting Academy student, Adele Costa, and I'm so excited to have this conversation today. Thank you so much for joining us, Adele.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
It is entirely my pleasure. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about and some stories you have promised to tell me, so I'm excited. But can you give us just a background on what was your path to copywriting and what got you interested in it?
Sure. So it's been a long, thickety path for me. I've always loved to write, and I, like a lot of copywriters, I think I started out as hobby writing, write fiction and journaling. Then, I did a lot of writing in the public sector, as part of, I have an MPA, so I did a lot of work for nonprofits and government, mostly I was the person they would look to jazz things up, to make things more interesting, to make things plain languagey. But I burnt out pretty hard in like the corporate government world recently. And so I took some time off and really thought about the kind of impact that I wanted to make as a professional, and the strengths that I wanted to use. And I wasn't using them, right? Not every day. And you do a good job with your advertising, Nikki, because the CCA found me via a Facebook ad. And I watched your video, the video that we all funnel to. And I got to tell you, it was like you were talking just directly to me. And when I have a feeling like that, I go for it. I don't think about it too hard. So
that's
how I found you. Yeah,
that's great. It's glad to hear it's working because you're exactly the kind of person we want to work with. Yeah. So you didn't know much about copywriting going into it, but you pulled the trigger and you went for it. Now that you're in it, or even as you were learning, what were some of your biggest surprises about copywriting?
So the first thing that I noticed almost immediately as I was going through, the foundational modules and such was copywriting is such a transferable skill, right? So I do a lot of professional development work for people right now, and I'm always telling them they need to build up these skills because they go with you wherever you go. And even, what was surprising to me was before I wasn't sure if I wanted this to be a side hustle or a full-time thing. So I was applying to jobs at the same time I was taking the class. And just by using like the first few little lessons that you teach in like my cover letters and like stuff, I was getting so many responses. It was crazy. I was like, what is the algorithms doing? So like, that's surprising, I guess. That's the first thing was it's a job machine in more ways than one. Just being able to speak to your audience effectively. And then honestly, how lucrative it is, right? So I think a lot of us and you mentioned this in your video, when we're told over and over again, you can't make money as a writer. Oh, don't write. No, don't tell anybody you want to do that. Go to, and I'm here to tell you, this is not true. This is very lucrative.
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's I think it's something that writers, because we've heard it so much, we're like afraid to believe that is it really possible? Yeah.
Yeah, for years I was afraid. I knew I wanted to do this. That's the other thing. I knew I wanted to be a writer for a living for a very long time. And I put that dream on the shelf. I did. And I'm so glad I took it off the shelf.
That's fantastic. So you were telling us about how the responses you were getting from cover letters. What other kind of wins have you been seeing?
Sure. So it's really nice to, I've always been called like, oh, Adele, you're so outgoing or whatever. But what I've noticed is, people are responding to what I have to offer. So I've gotten a lot of word of mouth business lately. And that was from one pitch I did on impulse. I'm big on impulse decisions here. I think it's what makes me a successful entrepreneur sometimes. Like I saw this girl on Facebook who I knew through the Peace Corps, and I was like, oh, she's looking for a job. She's always looking for a job. I think I could write her a good, she's smart. So I just like slid into her DMs, which you should always do email everybody, but I knew this girl. So I, I sent her a Facebook message and I was like, what if I just did your resume though? I bet we could. And so just from that one successful client, I've gotten like 10 others.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because she told her network that I did such a good job for her. I didn't have to do any pitching for those 10 clients.
That is so fabulous.
Yeah, so that's good. And then obviously, like I'm an interim comms manager for a huge nonprofit. That was also just something, my portfolio site I think helped, my network helped there, but that's been a trial by fire and a good one for copywriting, and I've been enjoying it a lot.
That's fantastic. I love it. I love it. Well, and one of the reasons that I wanted to reach out and interview you for the podcast and for our eventual YouTube channel is that I've been seeing all these wins in the group, and that's fantastic. But also, you've been posting some really, really useful information, just posts about the concept of selling without selling. And can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So this is kind of something I think, like a lot of people, when I first started pitching, I did that thing where I joined a bunch of Facebook groups, I joined a bunch of small business groups, and I just started plugging my website like it was going out of style, right? I was like, hey, and surprise, surprise, that wasn't working, right? That was a terrible idea. I mean, it was like just, crickets. And I just had to sit there and think, like, I tried to put myself in a small business owner's shoes. I really like I do this thing where like I sit in my little corner and I use my brain, like I just sit there. And I was like, well, what would I want as a business owner in these groups? What would I be there for, right? And I kind of figured, well, I'd want somebody to add value right now. I'd want somebody to care about what I was doing because I care about what I'm doing so much. And so it really helped me kind of reframe the way that I use these groups and these outreach opportunities. And selling without selling is my shorthand way of trying to communicate, use things like that to give and to build relationships, and not to give your product, but to give your time, interest, and attention, and to show your value rather than telling people you're valuable. And I got to tell you, since I started doing that, since I started asking people, what do you do? What are your struggles? Like, and being really interested, I don't have to tell anybody where to go. They want to know. They ask me like, oh, can you help? And it really works.
That makes so much sense. I mean, just in anything, wouldn't you rather work with someone who, instead of being like, you need to hire me, that's exactly your vibe from before, but wouldn't you rather work with someone who says, hey, what are you going through? What can I help you with? Or can I make any suggestions? I mean, it's just so much more authentic and so much more of a connection. I think that it's easy to forget that when we're so wrapped up in our own businesses and trying to pitch ourselves, that what people are really looking for is help.
Yeah.
They're looking for partners, and someone to make things a little bit easier for them.
Right.
So you have a full-time job, and
Right.
you're also taking additional freelance clients
Yes.
in the evening, which it's profitable but busy. I know, I've lived that life. And this is a little bit kind of a tricky question because you do have a full-time job right now, but where do you see your business going in the next few years? What are your dreams for, a couple of years out or even further out?
Sure. So to clarify, it's a short-term contract that is full-time, right? So they know my deal. They know I'm a freelancer. We're above board. It's really, so it's going to go until January. I'm filling in for somebody on maternity leave, right?
I've done that too, though. And then they don't come back. And then they're like, can you stay?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I will say, I think I like this whole I mean, honestly, I want to run an agency. I think I can do it. So I already know like who I would hire. I have like my fantasy football team of like who would be on my team. I think we could scale this. And so that's my goal in a few years. I think I have a lot to offer that's, what is it? A unique selling point, right?
Mhm.
I think my agency has a strong, my brand is a strong brand, and I think I could scale it up pretty well. But first I got to like know what I'm doing and earn some money first. So
Well, the good news is you're already earning money.
yeah.
And you're doing a great job of learning and growing and building experience. That's fantastic. I love that long-term plan. I love that. So what advice do you have for people who are just starting out? Maybe they're dipping their toes in copywriting, or maybe they've just discovered it. What advice do you have to offer?
I mean, I first want to say to everybody listening, Nicki is not paying me for saying this. No one is paying me, but please take this class. My only regret is that I didn't do this 10 years ago. I have a master's. I probably like it's just I would have just learned a lot and made a lot more money faster if I had taken this class. It's excellent. It's excellent, and it teaches you everything you need to know. I just used your email funnel surprise bonus class to like knock the socks off the executive director. Like just watching the first 3 videos, I was like, oh yeah, that's what we would do at NWHN. She was like, oh, like it's the greatest class ever.
Oh, thank you.
Also, what I'll say is just believe in yourself. That's so dumb, but like really, I have a huge struggle, I would say, sometimes believing in myself. My self-esteem wildly vacillates with the winds and the tides. And, even if you don't believe in yourself, do it anyway. Do it anyway. That is my advice, because don't count yourself out. There are already so many other people in this world who are going to count you out. So why count yourself out? If you fail, who cares? I crashed and burned in the corporate world, and I turned my life around in 2 months. So you'll be fine. That's my advice.
I love it. I love it. Well, and the thing is too, is that it's hard to believe in yourself. It can be hard to believe in yourself just, sitting at home. Not saying we're all sitting at home right now, but what I mean is that it's easier to believe in yourself when you take the scary steps.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes things won't work out, but sometimes they will. And when you take a scary step, and even if it doesn't work out perfectly, you end up going, oh yeah, but you know what? I'm the kind of person who can take scary steps every once in a while. Yeah. Because everybody's self-belief will go down. And I agree that I think that belief is a major component. And this is absolutely from someone who in the business world for years heard things like, well, you need to get your mindset right. You need to get your mindset. And I'm like, whatever, keep your mindset stuff. Just give me the strategies. Talk to me about Facebook ad spend. And while that is important, really, if you aren't at least even open to believing in yourself and open to the possibilities, you're not going to get anywhere. So I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, I say this in the group all the time, Nicki, like it's not all sunshine and roses for Adele in copywriting land. Like one of my very first meetings was with like a graphic designer, like a senior, and I was doing an informational interview trying to like get advice on like what to do. And it was very like, wait, what are you trying to do? Wait, really? Like there has been a lot of like, doubt and like setbacks and like confusion, but I just didn't give up. I mean, there are times when I totally didn't do it right. You know what I mean? But you just don't give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's no perfect path, right? Because we're all figuring out our own way anyway. And, part of how we learn is, sometimes we make missteps, but nothing's going to shut you down completely. And it's all learning, and just makes us all better as we go.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yay. This has been fantastic. Now, if someone has heard this interview or watched it and is thinking, oh, I have to work with Adele, I have to hire her, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Your website or social?
Sure. So my website, my baby, I would say. So it's www.thecopycanary.com, like the bird, all one word. Persuasive writing.
Your website. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it was very fun to do, and I owe a lot to you and my design partners for making it as good as it is. But that's how you get in contact with me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. So thecopycanary.com. If you have heard Adele and you find her absolutely irresistible, as she of course is. Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Adele. I know that people are going to find this so valuable and so helpful. So as you just heard, Adele, at the end of this part of the interview, Adele had just landed a full-time contract gig covering a maternity leave, which can be a very nice gig. In the next part of the interview, we are going to check in with her because as many CCA students have experienced, things start to snowball really fast once you get out there and we get pitching. So we're going to get that update about where she is today, and you will meet our special guest, her partner Jake, to hear what he thought as she began her copywriting journey and what he thinks now. So enjoy. Meanwhile, Jake, when you heard that Adele was interested in getting into this, what was your impression? What was your take on the whole thing?
Well, I guess first of all, she was telling me about this for like 20 minutes and I thought she meant copywriting with like a GH and I didn't know what that meant. So I thought it was like copywriting, like, is it like a legal thing? And then she told me, she said, oh, I gotta, take this class online that costs money and then I'll make a lot of money. And I said, well, that sounds like a lot of scams I've heard. So I was initially skeptical, but it's turned out better than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, you're not alone. And I think that's the interesting thing, because your skepticism is definitely shared, I think, by folks who not only have joined the group and are like, oh, I'm pleasantly surprised that, oh, this is legit. People often Google that, like, is Nicki Krosik legit? Yes, she's a real human. But I think it's also shared by the family members of folks who want to pursue this and obviously are supportive, but at the same time don't want their, whether it's mother, brother, sister, friend, partner, they're worried for them, right? Because it's a big, you're spending money on something and is it gonna pan out? So I'm curious how that transition went for both of you. Just, Adele, you obviously jumped in and started learning and working. But at what point, Jake, did you feel like, oh, okay, this is a thing?
Well, I do have the experience that just about every day Adele tells me about some new client that she has, and she always talks about them like I know who she's talking about, and she'll just mention the first name of someone I've never heard before and say, oh, well, I was talking to such and such a person and they want to hire me to do this or that. And, we're both working from home now, so we're in the same house like 24 hours a day. I still have no idea who she's talking about most of the time. But it became pretty obvious that like there's a big network of people that need these services, and she was able to connect with a lot of that network pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, and I think one of the moments that really brought to our attention that you and to our other students' attention that you had turned around was, Adele, the post that you put up about a gift from Jake.
Yes. So it's so funny because I've had to do a lot of like, no, Jake's the best though, because like that Jake is the absolute best. Love him to death. Like, and it's because of this post, Jake, where you surprised me, right, by getting me this awesome laptop and my headset, and like I was like ready to shell out all my NWHN money on that, and you were just like, no, I'm so proud of you, and it was the sweetest moment. So I posted about it. I was like, oh my God, he went from thinking this was a scam to buying me a laptop. I'm so happy, so proud of me, and like it was like a really sweet story, and it got a lot of like traction. And I think it's because we talk as copywriters about the deep benefit, right? And what deeper benefit is there than having someone who loves you, be proud of you, and respect you and for what you do? And I'm lucky every day, Jake.
Oh. Thank you.
Yeah. It definitely, I think the general response to that was, oh my God, that's so fantastic. I hope that my significant other does that for me, or I hope that.
I don't want to put pressure on anyone.
Yeah. Jake, if you could provide a list of other ideal gifts.
A good folding table is up there.
Oh, good. He bought me my work desk. I forgot to mention that. He got me this huge work desk for the living room.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, like last March, we had to sort of convert both of our lives to working from home, and that involved a lot of folding tables and extension cords and USB splitters and things like that.
Yeah. Now I'm never leaving though. So.
And you don't have to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we know a little bit, and let us know as much in as far as you are comfortable. But what kind of financial outcome have you? How much money you making, Adele?
You know, I'm not shy about talking about this. It's because, and I don't mean to brag, but I know, because this was my biggest fear, because I came from, like, I was making good money. I was making big girl money. Do you know what I mean? And like, to like go do this thing that like 20-year-olds do. I used to do it when I was like starving. Well, important, ladies and gentlemen. I used to do what I thought was copywriting, and I was actually blogging for a content mill to supplement my pitiful graduate assistantship stipend. But that was not copywriting. You'll learn that in Nikki's class. And so like, I was like, oh God, am I going to be poor forever? Is that the price of doing what I love? So yeah, I make, so, you know, I tried to keep my expectations realistic, right? I was like, look, if I can just cover my bills so that poor Jake doesn't have to support me, like, you know, I'll be happy. And, I got to say, within 96 days, I counted one day because I was doing my taxes. Within 96 days, I was making, you know, way more, like significantly more than I was in corporate. We're talking $7,000 to $8,000 a month.
Within 96 days?
Within 96 days, yes.
That's
and it was
amazing.
One big fish, right? One big client. And then I was also staying out there, right? Never stop pitching, never stop. Even if you're working full time, it's important. Jake makes fun of me. He's like, do you ever not work though? But
that's another story.
I do have to figure out a little bit better.
It's another battle.
But yeah, no, I'm making great money in 96 days. And I have been able to continue that, right? So I had this contract for a woman who was on maternity leave. You know, she was a comms director. I filled in. I was worried when that contract ended. I'm like, oh, that was beginner's luck. Now comes the grind. But no, I mean, when you do good work and when you put yourself out there and when you keep trying and you're committed to this career, it snowballs, just like you say. Like, just listen to Nicki, y'all. Like, just listen to Nicki and Kate. They're not lying to you.
I'm curious too, Jake, what kind of background do you come from? And because I think a lot of skepticism that I've seen, at least from family, friends, whoever, are often people who, I mean, definitely have never done freelance and are terrified of freelance versus a full-time job, and that the security issue that seems to come up, but also a lot of folks that are from more, I don't want to say non-creative fields, but more logical, I guess, like my husband, a very logical mindset and background, versus I'm like, yeah, let's like take a risk, you know, very different personalities. So I'm just curious if you have that kind of opposite background that you come from, where that you were like, ooh.
Well, to potentially fit your stereotype, my college degree was computer science, and I now work in construction engineering, which is approximately the least creative field that there is.
Analytical, I guess. That was the word I was going for. So
right.
A valuable skill, just very different, right? I mean,
but, you know, I'm also aware there's a lot of, like, you know, if you don't have a quote unquote real job, there's a lot of things that are, you know, work from home on the internet, ranging from like the Mechanical Turk. If you full-time do this, you could maybe make $4 an hour if you're one of the top earners. And I know there is sort of a race to the bottom in those fields. And I was somewhat surprised to find out that that is not the case for copywriting, or at least is not the case for this type of copywriting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you know, it makes sense for our loved ones to be concerned before we get into it, because to your point, Jake, there is a lot of crud on the internet and a lot of big promises. And, you know, whether it's Mechanical Turk stuff, or whether it's like be a secret shopper and, you know, or like MLMs or that kind of thing. There's a lot of reason to be concerned. But the funny thing is, and Adele, I'll be interested as a writer to hear your thoughts on this, but copywriting is really kind of a best kept secret in a way. There aren't a lot of writers outside of copywriters who actually even know that copywriting exists. Do you have any thoughts about why that is?
You know, I think it's part of like, it hides in plain sight, right? I think a lot of people think that any writing that they see is all the same, right? We kind of saw this on a couple of the portfolio reviews, right? Like, well, if it's in the writing sphere, then it's the same, right? And it's just not. I think the aha moment for me in your video that made me realize, like, I'm speaking of the video where she lays it all out very transparently, what you're going to get, friends. You know, what made me realize, oh wait, this is different, is you very cogently explained that copywriting is writing to persuade. And the part that made me realize, oh wait, maybe you can get paid for this, is because my background in like corporate America and in like nonprofits and the public sector, we did a lot of writing to persuade. It was to persuade donations and action, and you know, and those people did get paid a lot, right? So like consultants and development coordinators and all those other people, that they're not called copywriters, but they do persuasive writing. So I think it's just a best kept secret because people don't like to quibble over the details, and I don't think they haven't articulated. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. No,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. I think people in advertising tend to be aware of copywriters, or people who've watched Mad Men.
Yes.
But they don't know that copywriting can, or they don't pay attention to it. They miss it in the shows, or they miss it, and they don't know that it can happen outside. It can absolutely happen in ad agencies and for internal agencies, but it can be done freelance as well. I love to tell people that, like, hey, by the way, F. Scott Fitzgerald was a copywriter. Salman Rushdie was a copywriter. Kurt Vonnegut was a copywriter. The guy who wrote
to pay the bills.
Exactly. The guy who wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was a copywriter too.
I love that.
So, thanks for that, copywriting.
I'm curious, because you came from the corporate world, and obviously you, I'm assuming, had full-time jobs before doing the copywriting route, and you're freelancing now. You're not a full-time on staff copywriter, right? Freelancing full-time. So what are your feelings? And you touched on money and being, oh my God, am I going to be poor forever? And is this is a lifestyle? But how do you feel about the security aspect of it? Because I think that is a big concern, where people think a full-time job is going to give me more steady paycheck, job security. Now that you've been on both sides of it, what are your feelings on either side?
Yeah. It's funny you say this. So I'm relatively new to this formally, right? So I began in July. It's February now. That's like not even a year. Not even a year, right? And so I'm not going to lie to you and say that I'm like fully confident that for 10 years I'm going to have that. But what I have noticed, and I did a little blogging about this, is I am so much more motivated now than I ever was before. And I have like this whole side of my brain that when I was working in these large bureaucratic organizations and for the state, I wasn't even able to use, right? Like I would bust my butt writing these proposals or whatever, or like having these creative ideas and no one would even read them. Do you know what I mean? And like that. And now not only do people read them, I get paid the better they are, right? Like, and so, basically I think I've been able to monetize a huge portion of my brain and like my self-interest. And I've noticed that I get exactly what I put into this career back out of it. I mean, there's never been a moment so far where I've been like, man, I just wasted a bunch of time. I'm not getting fairly compensated. And I can't tell you how many times I felt like that, working a 9 to 5. I also like the flexibility is security for me, right? How many times have we been like, oh, is our boss going to be mad? Or am I going to get fired because I got to go visit my, family or whatever? I can do whatever the heck I want as long as I get my work done. And I'm the only one I have to answer to. And, maybe Jake. But yeah, no, I think the security is there if your commitment is there. I mean, that's just been the way that it's played out for me so far. And I have no reason to believe it won't, right? For the rest of my time doing this.
Yeah. Jake, was that a concern for you as well, as she was talking about getting into copywriting?
Well, I didn't know how full-time it would be at first. So when she first started talking about this, this was maybe going to be a part-time thing and she would look for full-time employment, but she actually got so much interest in her writing so early on that it became obvious she sort of could do it as a full-time thing, or maybe even a more than full-time thing. So now I'm mostly telling her, like, hey, you can't accept every client maybe, or maybe you don't have to pitch 10 things every day.
This
you
is
and my
actually
husband
an
need to have a
intervention.
support group. Yeah. You and Chris can go form the CCA partner network. Partner network.
Adele, Jake would like to spend more time with you.
I know.
Chris would like to spend more time with you.
I gotta be better.
Actually, both Jake and Chris asked me to get you guys on the call. And
This isn't even a real podcast. We're not
Not a
recording.
real podcast, no.
This is an intervention.
I'm not recording this. No.
Oh boy.
I laugh, but I'm like, that tracks. That could be a possibility.
Oh man, yeah, he was so funny yesterday. I have, like, it really does snowball, listeners and friends. Like, I looked up. Okay, so I got into Calendly, right? Which is amazing for a lot of reasons, but dangerous for others, right? So like, it's amazing because I don't have to like go back and forth with every client. Like, when do you want to meet? But now I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh, I got like 6 meetings. Huh.
Yeah, Adele's always surprised by how many meetings she has that day and at what time they are.
When you don't block off your calendar at midnight, you just...
No, I did know to do that, but I'm like,
Okay.
honestly, like, surprised at like the vol. Like, what it is that people will be like 10:30, 11:30, 1, 2:30, and then it's like, when am I going to write though? I'm like, but you know, so as a new copywriter, I'm working out the self-care portion of this, right? So I actually have no problems with security, but what I will say is, you know, I'm very fortunate to have a very great support system, people who love me, my cats. I need to do a better job, and I need to figure out like how to balance this all. And I'm getting better as I go, but it's definitely, you don't want to be a victim of success either. Not the message you thought you'd hear, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's very true though, because it is, especially when you're freelance, or I should say, especially when you're full-time freelance, it's very easy to be like, yes, I'll take all the work.
And especially while we're still like, well, I'm not going to go anywhere because it's still, you know, I'm not on my vaccine yet. Sure, I'll work on a Friday and Saturday because that's our fun time activity. Hey, Chris, I need to write some lines. You got any thoughts? Do you ever do that? I'm curious, actually. Jake, does she ever say, hey, can you help brainstorm for me?
Not too much, but a little bit.
Definitely.
I stopped asking my husband after I asked him once. I was like, hey, this was years ago. Like, hey, I need 5 or 10 lines for these cities in Germany. We were in Germany. We were living there. So he was familiar with the ones I gave him. I was like, give me your thoughts on what it was like there. I got back mines where officers in the army get to live because they get to live off post. Like, nothing related to what I needed to do. I wanted to well, like, you go to mines because they have a beautiful like church that you can visit, and like any restaurants. But no, it was just like these humorous, like Würzburg, the verse, because they have the verse traffic, like making puns.
I'm not an expert, but that sounds like great copywriting to me.
I was curious if you did that to Adele, if you're just like, yeah, here's some lines, and you're just like, oh no. That's not...
I offer terrible ideas when I have them, but they're usually so terrible that you couldn't do them.
I will say, when I was coming up with the health coach name, I ran a few by Jake because, like, you get so he's actually quite a good thought partner when we're being serious. But yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. Well, that's why we do a creative brief, right? Whoever you ask for your opinion hasn't read the brief.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, Kate, I feel like you needed to give Chris
I didn't give him a creative brief. That is
exactly
1,000%.
That's on you, kid. That's on you.
I make a bad client. Do this work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so as we were saying, we are still in the middle of kind of, general lockdown, and we're kind of stuck where we are. But are you thinking about how you're going to get out there and celebrate this income and this flexible lifestyle? You've been thinking about vacations or anything like that?
I've been thinking about vacations. No, Jay. I mean, what were we saying, Jay? We want to go to a beach somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I am the how do you say, the adventurous one in this relationship, right? In terms of where we go and things. Although I will say we've had some great meeting in the middle times. We did get away a little bit for went to some Airbnb cabin in the middle of the woods. We have a lot of woods in New York. Do you know what I mean? And that's always fun. But yeah, you bet. I can't wait to get out of here for a little while. Beaches. I'm cold, so all I've been thinking about is beaches. TBH.
I hear that deeply.
Yeah, I hear that, because I think that that's an important thing too, is, especially as you're working really hard and you've seen the fantastic results that you have seen, is really to celebrate that and appreciate it, and that money that you come in pays, or the money that you have coming in pays for that vacation, and you can, give a little love back to Jake for the desk and the
Yes.
computer.
No, that is definitely on my mind. Like, it has been nice to be able to be like, but money, maybe I could help. I mean, he's so sweet and generous, but it's nice to be able to do that now.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So, first of all, I know that Kate and I are both so thrilled that you have seen such great results, and we've both been just delighted to see when you post. From the very beginning, you were always very active in the group and just posting and seeing your successes as they just really came rolling in. But
I didn't realize July, like that bears like,
yeah.
Can we count the months?
It's not even
pandemic time. July is like 7 years ago.
That's true. Fair. True. It's very true. But you, and it's a major credit to you that you dug in and you took action. There's nothing magic in the career. There's nothing magic in what we teach. It's the magic is in you taking the action and taking the steps that we give you and actually doing the work. So you really, I don't want to say congratulated, because it's, I mean, yes, congratulations, but you should just be so proud of yourself.
Thank you. And Jake and I talk about this all the time. We're the type who we'll have dinner and we'll have a long philosophical conversation at the end of it. I do spend time with him sometimes. And one thing we're always talking about, right, Jake, is like, we wish all education was as actionable as some things that we, right? Like, I don't know, like, I feel like we both went to college, and it was kind of like, I must have told you 100 times, hon, right? That like, man, this class so much more about what to actually do in the real world with real things than I did in like half of my classes. And I don't know why that is, but way to go. So like, thanks for giving me the tools I needed to actually do a thing.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah.
And Jake, you need to schedule time on her Calendly. I think that's the secret.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. Get access to that link and just book her out.
I think that is genius.
It's pretty smart.
I love it.
Codel's like, shoot, now I need it. That's a smart idea. So
she's going to see this list of clients and be like, I don't know if any of these are real or how many of them are real.
He gets on my camera. He's in a Groucho Marx classes. Right to my website.
It's like I have an appointment with Mortimer McFly. What?
Oh boy. Good morning, everyone.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for sitting down and chatting with us. Thank you to both of you, Adele and Jake. It's been super, super fun, first of all, just to chat with you anyway, but so insightful to hear about it, to hear about building this copywriting business from both sides, from the copywriter and someone who loves the copywriter.
Yeah. It's not a lone venture, right? I mean,
no.
Yeah. The whole household is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. We haven't even talked about my dad who lives downstairs.
Oh, we should have gotten him on. You're holding out on.
I know. My dad, he lives with us in the apartment below, and it's funny. He used to be a marketing guy, just like your dad, Nicki.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And every once in a while, I'll be like, "Is this any good?" And he's like, "Man, you're good at this." It's really cute. So yeah, the whole house, my cats, you've seen them.
That's amazing. And your brother's getting started too.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. That's right. So Sam. my brother Sam, who's the best, who's a teacher in Korea. He teaches English, loves it, but like, you know, is poor, would love to make some more money. And you know, it's really challenging to start a side hustle as a digital nomad, like safely and legally for very many visa reasons, scam reasons, right? And I mean, like, you know, I'm very extroverted. And so he's been able to see like all the things and what I've been able to do. And he recently took the plunge. He's in the Copy Academy now and is really sending me the cutest texts like, I think this is the benefit, but is it a feature though? And I'm like, oh my God. Yes. He's going to be real good, y'all. I'm excited.
That's fantastic. I love it. It's a family affair.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for chatting with us this morning. I look forward to seeing your continued success. And then also, I think you should post in the group when it is beach time, be like, this is where we are. This is the beach we're on when you take your vacation, or when Jake, maybe you have to book out like a week on her schedule. Be like, it's a really long client call.
Yeah, it'll be you'll see my laptop and the flip-flops in the sand. Don't worry.
Yes, exactly. That's, you know, you want to take your computer, do a little work, and then write it off. Full disclosure, I don't actually know if that's possible. So don't take that tax advice.
As we say all the time. Consult your tax officials.
Yes. A disclaimer.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This was super fun, and we look forward to following your continued success.
Yes. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, guys. Okay, and just in case you missed it, because we kind of slid it in there, if you want to check out Adele's portfolio, if you need a copywriter and you're interested in hiring her, or you want to see an example of a really great portfolio, you can see Adele's at thecopycanary.com. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyricwriter.com. We'll see you next time.